Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, July 6th, and we got notifications, which is nice, but it is Friday, so more than likely that's not gonna mean anything. Let's trade out this. I should normally have 2 quests today, but one of the quests I had was a watch and learn, which I guess I opened the pack for just stupidly without thinking, and apparently I got all new cards too. So I got one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those, and one of those, and all of those cards are just basic classic cards that I definitely need. I'm kind of surprised that there weren't any duplicates. The question I guess I want to ask here is, what is the missing list on the Asian account on basic cards? It must be a lot bigger than I thought it was. So type in the key phrase missing, come over to classic cards. Yeah, I'm missing one of these, even though one of these is a gold. It's a pretty big list. I certainly have enough dust where I could just go through here and craft the cards that are blue, and that would get this collection a lot closer to what it should be. I'm not ready to do that. I want to wait till the next expansion comes out. They've started to talk about what the next expansion is, so I think that's probably coming out maybe in a month or two. I'd be surprised if it's more than 2 months. But yeah, there is definitely a whole collection here. Using dust to craft the blue cards actually doesn't make any sense, because more than likely when the next expansion comes out, I am going to spend a significant amount of gold buying packs for the classic packs. I think that's just how it has to be done. We don't have a new tavern brawl, so we don't have to deal with that. So, what was the quest? I needed to get 3 victories, so we're just going to play some ranked play of Paladin and Priest. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. I did see on that tavern brawl that if you play as the druid, you can kind of win on the first turn if you build the right deck, because druid has a lot of cards that draw and do damage, and the tavern brawl lets you cast those spells using your own health. So if you just play fast enough, you on the first turn, you win. And so Kriperian was doing his equivalent of Summer Games Done Quick by winning on the first try. Where are we going to be on the news today? I think we have a decent amount of news, although I did go through a lot of it and filter it out. I still think we've got a decent amount of I still think we have a decent amount of news happening.
Fight with honor. I will command the light.
I finished Warcraft Go. The first bit of free add-on DLC was not good in Warcraft Go. The second bit, the Mirror of Spirits, was pretty good. But
we have turned our curse into
I think it was called the Cave of Fire or Maze of Fire bit of DLC added extremely complicated, or convoluted maybe is a better term, solutions, and so my mind at the point, having played this game over the course of just a couple days, was already exhausted enough to the point where I was just like, I cannot care to think of the 100-step pattern that I need to do, and some of them did feel like it was nearly 100 steps. It was probably closer to 50.
It's time for a little blood.
But yeah, the patterns were extremely complicated, and it really wasn't adding anything else to the experience. Let's see. That's actually what I wanted to happen, because I don't want to give this guy extra attack. But then the Mirror of Spirits puzzles had a reflection mechanic added, where there was a mirror version of Lara Croft, and you had to manipulate both characters at the same time, and that was pretty cool. And I was able to solve nearly every puzzle without any help at all. There probably was a collection of puzzles that there were some puzzles where I just got, I'd say, 90% there. You know, I knew the solution, I just didn't want to have to figure out the pacing and the order. Lara Croft Go starts really simple in its main game, and it doesn't get incredibly complicated even at the end. So the first part before they added DLC was really good, and I think if they had just broken up a lot of the puzzles in a way that you could skip or only ask for help on one bit of the puzzle, instead of what they would do is they'd have 10 chapters in each book, and a chapter could have 4 or 5 puzzles in it. If they kept everything really tight and just one puzzle per chapter, you could have made the game feel like there was a lot more content. Inherently, though, there's just a lack of support for the game. Square Enix did not want to support it. They just wanted to use it as advertisement for the reboot of and now they're not making any more of the Go games, so no Hitman Go, no Lara Croft Go. I believe there was a third series that was also a Go series. I don't even... Deus Ex Go. Yes, there was a Deus Ex Go that I haven't played. I think Lara Croft Go is the best and the first one to introduce that style of gameplay, and it works alright. But it doesn't have any story. It could really have used some up-close visual novel style story. Conversations, just written text, something to tell you why you're trying to collect an artifact, or what the artifact is. There's like no voice acting of Lara Croft. The animation of Lara Croft is a super low pixel polygon character model because it's a cell phone, but even at that it could have been better looking. Overall, I did like the game though. It's fine. I wouldn't pay more than $1.50 for it though. There is also, if you get it on the cell phone version, you probably would have paid like extra microtransactions to use hints and to buy costumes. But the Steam version includes all of that just in the purchase, and including the updates, so you get a much better experience on the Steam version. Mouse control is pretty bad on it, however, so I would maybe suggest using... I'd suggest using a controller. If you don't have a controller you can plug into a PC, it's questionable what you're doing at all, then you should definitely have a controller. Even if you don't own an Xbox or a PlayStation, go get an Xbox or a PlayStation controller that plugs in to your computer. I'd recommend the official models, instead of like a GameStop cheap knockoff. But yeah, there could have been a lot more done with the game to try and have something that feels like the old Lara Croft games, with the old Tomb Raider games, because the reboots really don't. There is also the other game series, Lara Croft in the Temple of Cyrus, which is the sequel to, I believe, the Sphere of Destiny, which is a top-down action puzzle game that I think maybe works a little bit better than the Go series because the Tomb Raider games have never really been puzzles. Let's see. Let's do this.
For justice.
Of course. So that will be the next thing. Maybe I should take some time and schedule some videos before I start playing Warcraft Temple of Osiris. That would be kind of fine too. So that is another thing to think about. It's like I need to schedule things and get things done. That was not the victory I wanted. Let's start going through the news. Pretty much every stream now, and I'm just gonna have to learn to just stop saying it. I want to get through things as quickly as possible because there's because you know, like, streaming takes a long time. Doing these Hearthstone things takes a lot of time, and I'd like to speed things up. So, PC Gamer has an article, Dead Island 2 is still coming, says the official Twitter account. Apparently somebody tweeted them, hey, is Dead Island 2 still coming? Yeah, and they said, yeah, but we don't have anything else really to say. The Dead Island mobile tower defense spinoff is available on cell phones right now.
Nature's blessings
and that's
upon you.
Probably the only reason that anybody is even reporting on this is, or why the Twitter account bothered to respond, is because of the fact that the mobile game is out there and that they're trying to promote that. Not really too much information really being said there. In fact, no information whatsoever. Gamatsu has an article, the Kill La Kill game :IF is going to be released for PS4 and PC. So it's Kill La Kill the game :if, and they have a trailer here. Let's see what this trailer looks like, because I imagine IF stands for something like Infinite Fighter or something along that lines, and making Kill La Kill into a fighting game works alright, makes sense. Although, frankly, if it's gonna try and retell the story of the anime and have a story mode, I'd appreciate that. It also could just be a full-on action fighting game instead of a arcade-style fighting game that just goes on forever. Something close to No More Heroes would make sense, where it's a boss rush game. Alright, so there's a lot of intros there, and now I'm looking at the trailer, and it does seem they seem to have heavily integrated cutscenes into the fighting section, but it does look like it is a fighting game of some sort, although it didn't show any life bars or UI or HUD or anything like that. So no real information there. All we know is that it is now coming to PC and PS4. First demo will be playable at EVO. So if it's at EVO, you know then it's gotta be a fighting game. And if it's coming out to Evo, that tells you there's a desire for this to be more than just a standard fighting game. They want this to catch people's attention and convince people to play it over and over again. They're a little late to the party with Kill a Kill though, so it's gonna be a hard sell to convince people who are playing Street Fighter and like Smash Brothers and what else is played at Evo. I don't think Skullgirls is played there. There's a decent collection of things, of games already played at Evo and that have already been just decided as the one chosen games they're gonna play. There's a lot of competition.
I don't need any of you.
Try and introduce a new fighting game because there's only so many you can have. Speaking of No More Heroes, I believe, according to Gematsu, Kotaro, Kotaro, Uchikoshi announces AI the Somnium files for PS4, Switch, and PC. Actually, no, this isn't the guy that makes No More Heroes. This is the guy, I think, that makes the Zero Escape games. Yeah, I think yes. Like, the director and scenario writer for his adventure titles such as the Zero Escape series as a new visual novel type game.
Miscalculation.
Not on my watch.
Let's move quickly.
So the Somnium files, SOMNIUM files. It looks like it's kind of a Persona-esque game in the sense that the main protagonist can transfer between two different worlds, like demonic version of the world in the real world. But yeah, there's not a lot here on this announcement. A slight description.
Miscalculation.
Your magic shall not save you. Your magic shall not save you.
For me, this is my responsibility.
There we go. So we've got another Japanese good-looking game coming out. First game on Steam today we have is called Lagoon Lounge: The Poisonous Fountain. It's positive with 100% of 27 user reviews. Came out July 5th. It includes sexual content, nudity, casual, indie, and adventures. And the description is: this is a visual novel containing furry characters and homosexual themes. You take the role of a furry who's moved into a seaside village and becomes involved in the lives of the residents. So 100% 27 reviews might just be meme reviews, or maybe this is done really well.
Let me think.
Like, maybe this is what the furry community, of which I'm not familiar, really wants. Animation doesn't look amazingly good, but it's also probably not done in an attempt to follow animation styles that I'd be familiar with. So yeah, I kind of have to look at this animation style and say this looks like really good cartoon animation. If these were Looney Tune characters, this looks fine and good.
I must move quickly.
It's not hyper-realistic style
Reporting for
that you'd
duty.
expect from a Western game, nor is it
For
a
justice.
anime style that you would expect from an Eastern game, and so I'm kind of left
For me.
in a position where I can't say too much. Seems like it's gonna deliver,
Get down.
or at least it has a good chance of delivering what you would want. Seems like the name is too long. Lagoon Lodge, the Poisonous Fountain. Seems like maybe they'd make sequels. It's $13.99, and heck, if I was gonna do visual novels, I would consider playing this one just for its uniqueness. But there's no voice options, so I would have to voice everything, and I certainly don't want to ever do that. Right.
Reporting for duty.
Do I want to kill this? That's probably the better move.
The battle.
Didn't do that.
This is my
Do
responsibility.
that.
For justice.
Gematsu has an article, Skullgirls 2 Second Encore is coming to Switch. So it's not Skullgirls 2 Second Encore, it's Skullgirls Second Encore. I guess there hasn't been as much an official sequel to Skullgirls as there is just a continuation of wow,
Reporting for
every
duty.
time minion back. Like, it seems like they consistently just update it. Skullgirls Second Encore is already available for PS Vita, PS4, and PC. So it's just coming to the Switch, which is interesting. Certainly some of this information, if I was more on the ball, I would say, hey, I might own Skullgirls Second Encore. There's a chance I do. I doubt I do. Why not try to play that game real fast and have that footage out when this game comes out for the Switch? That might make a little sense. It certainly would make more sense if I was a bigger channel and was capable of riding waves of interest. Let's go with a priest. I've tried twice on a paladin and not won. So let's try the priest. The paladins aren't winning at an extremely low ranking. Let's see.
Anduin versus Jaina.
On Steam, Skullgirls Second Encore
The light
Upgrade
shall bring victory.
is DLC to purchasing the original game, Second Skullgirls. And the Second Encore Upgrade on Steam is 96 positive in the last 30 days, where original Skullgirls is 93% positive in the original in the last 30 days. So yeah, I don't think I have the base Skullgirls, so I probably don't have Second Encore either, because I would have to own the DLC to a game that I don't own, and that's impossible. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, that's YU-NO, a girl who chants love at the bounds of this world, is coming to the West for the PS4 and PC in 2019. That is clearly a visual novel just by the extremely long name. And of course, in Japan, this game was probably just sold as you know, and then maybe some Japanese worlds. Like, a girl who chants very well could be one word in Japanese. Or a girl who chants love might be one word in Japanese. And Bound of This World might be one word in Japanese. And that's where you get a lot of these ridiculously long let's see, let's not do that, let's do that, and then let's do that, and then do that. Fast move. So this is a visual novel, and all I'm seeing is a single screenshot, so I need more information before for it. And yeah, and there's really no information here other than it's coming to the West on PC and PS4 in 2019, which is good. We've got a game on Steam called Paper Shakespeare: Love's Labour's Lost, which is either a title or a phrase of a Shakespeare story. So it's feels like it's probably the idea of just using stickmin and cut out paper animation telling the story of Shakespeare, which isn't terrible idea. It's just that the graphics are so horrible that you're taking this public domain beloved story and doing it a horrible disservice. Looking at every single screenshot here, there's no reason in my mind that anybody would ever want to play it. Apparently there's a whole collection of these Paper Shakespeare games that you can buy in a bundle for $21.93, and I don't think that'd be worth it. Is this perhaps a scam to trick parents into buying games that look like they're educational? Maybe. Seems like it might be just a meme thing too, and I don't know if it has all of the Shakespeare story there. Love's Labour's Lost is $2.99. It's definitely not worth it though. Gamasutra has an article says Gamasutra's article says GameStop says the Nintendo Switch sales doubled following E3, which is a bit of a head scratcher to me, because I really cannot think of what would have motivated people to buy more. Yeah, it does not really make sense. Like, why would you want to buy more Switches? Maybe it's because Smash Brothers really caught people's attentions, but I guess it kind of has to be. They didn't really announce anything else worth mentioning. Let's see. Smash Bros. Ultimate and ongoing enthusiasm for Pokemon Go, which Pokemon Go doesn't really even integrate with the Switch until Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee comes out. Moving on, I guess, we have a game on Steam called Enigma Prison. It says it's an action-adventure indie puzzle first-person game. Seems like you have a character that has the ability to jump out of his body, which is interesting. It seems like you're also doing some cube puzzles. See, there was this game, I think it's Cube, Q-U-B-E with periods in between it, and that they made a sequel to, And they made some major improvements, and this feels sort of like that game. Although this has flying around the drone as a Metroidvania-like element, it seems, and a ghost element. I can't say that this is a bad game, though. This looks like somebody's really spent some effort here. And these are the kind of little indie games that I'd like to see, and I'm calling this an indie game for all I know. This is being made by a big company. No, it's pretty much a indie game, and it looks way better than it should be, and not in the usual Unity asset flip way that I use that phrase. There could be problems with this game, certainly. There could be a definite case of it simply having bad controls or being extremely short. That's always a possibility, but I can't prove that from looking at the trailer. Everything this trailer shows says it's a good game. It's in English and Portuguese Brazil, and it's in beta. So you can download the Enigma Prism beta for free, and then it says coming soon. But certainly has caught my attention, and this developer has nothing else he's ever made. The thing here is, if this is a scam, it seems like this is more than likely a stolen game in total. It's too polished, it's too good looking to be anything else. So I'll wishlist that. I kind of hate when things like that happen, though, and I'm accidentally looking at something that didn't need to be looking at. Give a minion +2/+2 and lifesteal. There we go.
Job's done.
Alright. Next game we have on Steam is called Annual. It's a free-to-play action indie violent game according to this.
You require my
And
assistance.
this one looks like it's an asset flip. I can tell because the UI in the corners looks very bad. It looks like you're on a random alien planet with some randomly placed repetitive trees that you're running through. Seems like you're just shooting a laser blaster that looks very simplistically animated. Let's see. This. And do that.
I roll knee.
And do that.
I don't need any of you.
Right away.
There we go. Yep. Nothing would sell me on Annual, even the fact that it's free to play. It's just a cheap asset flip. I don't even know why you would make a cheap asset flip and make it free to play. It's the first game this developer's ever made, so maybe what they're trying to do is develop some kind of brand loyalty to the developer or the publisher, and then sell their second game. That seems to be a plan of monetization for some developers. It could also be, it feels like some programmers just want to say they've listed the game on Steam as if that's something really prestigious, and that might be a way in which they can increase their chances of getting a game making job with a bigger company, that like it's just a resume builder. Moving on. Your Game has an article. Old School RuneScape has entered public beta testing on Android. The iOS version is expected later this summer.
Are you ready for this?
So it's an interesting idea. I don't think it's really going to happen that people would enjoy playing games from the 90s that required a PC on their phone now, because phones are capable of having that much space and that much processing power. In all honesty, phones can do a lot better than a game from the 90s, but there is a lack of storage and a lack of bandwidth and a lack of resolution and pixel density on your screen. Mostly I think it would be just a case of game developers trying to sell their old products.
I don't need any of you.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're gonna win here. It felt like I was gonna win, and then all of a sudden I was one short, and that one health short killed me. Moving on, Eurogamer. Eurogamer decided to put out some articles this week, I guess. Has an article, July's Xbox update is out today to let you play your downloading games sooner. So that new scheme to speed up... Oh, I'm not going to get anywhere here. Back to casual. You can't even get wins. It's not even worth your time to try to get wins on ranked. At a certain point here, give me 6 months, I think I'm going to give up trying to even get up to rank 20. It's just not worth the amount of effort. It's too much time. This game's not that good. So yeah, the Xbox scheme to speed up playing games, I don't know if they ever explained how it really worked, but I think for the most part it's just downloading the assets of the first couple levels before downloading the assets for the last levels, which could simply be done using a lot of sampling and AI to say when this file is attempted to be accessed, or first accessed compared to when the game was first started, tells Xbox how important that file is. So, for instance, the video files that say all the company logos is probably the first file that will be downloaded for everybody, and then the video file when you first start the game will probably be downloaded pretty quickly too. But say the cutscene video file that you only see when you beat the game would be potentially one of the last things that gets downloaded. That assumes that the video files are separate at all, and not all combined. A lot of older games in particular were designed in such a way that,
I don't need any of you.
That they took everything and squashed it into one executable. So support for a system like this is going to be varied at best, unless Microsoft institutes some very draconian ways in which people develop their games, which they probably already do have some pretty draconian ways for that. Heal. End the turn. Moving on, let's see, we already talked about that. I probably have a ton of repetitive tabs open today. Gamasutra has an article, Conan Exiles has topped 1.4 million sales, which hardly is in the 10 or 20 million sales as far as a AAA game that it felt like it was attempting to be. Is this the right move to do? I think it is. This, and then I could do this and this and then this. Let's not do this right now.
For me!
And instead end the turn there. Because they made 1.4 million sales, it is now the best-selling title in Funcom history. Like Hyborian Adventures sold all 1.4 million units in 3 years before eventually going to free-to-play, and that was their previous game, Age of Conan Hyborian Adventures, which that also was an Age of Conan game that I was thinking that I would have really liked to have played. Alright.
Thank you.
He played this and this and didn't know about this.
For me!
He really played into his own death. If he hadn't increased my health more. That's one victory, and I imagine the guy who's been spectating me this whole time will stop spectating at that point. I still don't feel like Conan Exiles is a successful game just artistically. It leans on trying to be a Minecraft survival game, and it doesn't tell a real story. I think you've got the assets there now to take those characters and that character creator and those environmental things and put a story there, build some better and bigger cities, have a bit of a more zoomed in camera,
You asked for it.
theatrical experience. Because that's really what my understanding of Conan is, and I think it's what most people's understanding of Conan is a theatrical understanding. I don't think people read the books. I don't think people read the comic books. I'm not even sure if it came from a comic book or book, but I know it's something. The movies weren't the first thing, and even if they did come from a book or comic book, those are all very story-based experiences that you're just not having right now. And didn't feel like there was a lot of boss fights. It felt like Conan Exiles was more of a small creature fight game with the slight potential of maybe summoning some other player character summoning a god against you for sort of a boss, but the gods that are summoned in the Conan Exiles game requires too much work, and they're too devastating, so I don't think the other players can actually really defeat them without summoning a god of their own on their side. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like a good game. Every time I've seen it, every time it's been talked about, people undoubtedly, obviously got convinced into purchasing that,
hope you like my invention.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good game.
Job's done.
Your Gamer has an article that says, "Is Richard Garrett's Shroud of the Avatar on the ropes because it looks like a flop?" Let's see. I've never heard of Shroud of the Avatar. Shroud of the Avatar for Forsaken Virtues is the spiritual successor of the legendary online role-playing game Ultima Online, and I've never heard of it or seen it. And they're clicking to like a YouTube video that's 10 minutes long. and it's like a video YouTube review. And yeah, it doesn't look like much of anything. Just a standard running around RPG game. Maybe MMO game. Yeah. I don't think MMOs are in the position that they once were to be successful. I was listening to somebody think about how and recant the history of how Xbox was first released and pushed, and how it created a lot of the X-Bros, and they basically created an entire new market of jocks, basically sports fanatics, who were willing to play video games and saying these are the real gamers, and all of the nerds who had been playing MMOs and games before that point just need not apply, because that's not who Microsoft was trying to court, which certainly introduced the X-Bros. I would argue, as somebody who doesn't play online games though, that generation of people who would have been X-Bros when Halo came out, when the original Xbox came out, they've grown up or grown out of playing games by this point. Anybody who's a kind of jerkish, toxic player now would not really be in the right age frame, in my opinion, to be an X-Bro. They opened the door and kind of did the right thing to make it cool and acceptable for everybody to play games, where it wasn't always that way, and so that was good. But they also opened the door to then let everybody play games, and some people are just jerks. But in part of the recanting of that idea that Microsoft created the X-Bros community and those style of players, there is also the idea that that pushed a lot of the people who would have been playing games into things like World of Warcraft, and that might have, in a sneaky way, increased the number of people playing MMOs and games like that. I don't know how many people it really did push though, because frankly, as somebody who wasn't a jock and who was playing games many years before Halo came out, like, I'm of the wrong generation. I was never going to play Halo as my main game anyways. I may have, given it a try, certainly, but it wouldn't have been the only game I ever play, which Halo had a horrible problem of that, where Halo fans only played Halo 1, and some of them wouldn't even move to Halo 2, if I'm remembering correctly. And that does not help Microsoft, who's selling a subsidized console, if the people who are buying it and are only buying one game.
Job's done.
Moving on now, because that's kind of more of a historical thing than anything else. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article that's called "For Your Information, the free clicker game Adventure Capitalist is still a going concern." So I took a look at it, and oh no. So this is like a retrospective of somebody who reviewed Adventure Capitalist 3 years ago, writing a new article and promoting it on Rock Paper Shotgun for no real reason. Let's see. Yeah, and And I don't know what the real reason is other than that to even talk about it. Like, it's still a clicker game. It's still the thing, something somebody should be playing. Since I'm playing time clickers, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to shift to a different clicker. Depends on if there's actually microtransactions in this game or not, and how bad they are. An utterly pointless article as far as I can tell. Just no reason for that game to be talked about, and that certainly opens the door to suspicion that they are just being paid to talk about the game. Moving on, Gamer Sutra has a weekly jobs roundup, which probably we've talked about all these games. So, infrastructure engineer for Cold Iron Studios in San Jose, California. Senior game producer for Rovio in Espoo, Finland. Community manager for Rockstar Games in New York, New York. Lead lighting artist for Sucker Punch Productions in Bellevue, Washington. Character modeler for Telltale Games in San Rafael, California. If any of those interest you, check out Gematsu's weekly jobs roundup. Let's see, PC Gamer has an article. Todd Howard apparently talked a lot this week because there's been several different things he said, so he must have given a pretty long interview. That's the best I can tell. This, and then this, and then just in the turn. Todd Howard on VR, quote, historically the third generation is where it starts to become popular. I don't know, I mean, how do you get to the third generation on a Nintendo platform or a console? Do you say something like the Atari was the first generation, the Commodore was the second generation, then the NES was the third generation? Or do you say something like arcade cabinets were the first generation, the Atari was the second generation, and then the NES was the third generation? Or were there two generations of arcade cabinets and then NES and Atari became like... I don't know how you dance around the logic there to make your numbers add up.
You are the Shadow's puppet.
Let's see. Restore 4 health. Now you're silenced. And we've got to kill somebody.
Right away. Right away.
There we go. So I guess you could take it that if we are still in the first generation of VR, which we're assuming we're ignoring things like the Virtual Boy and other experiments like that, and we're not saying that we're in the second generation of VR just because there's been a couple updates to the Oculus Rift and the Vive, then there's going to have to be a whole second generation of VR and then a third generation of VR. That is set so far in the ahead. It's a great prediction for Todd Howard, who is the guy behind Bethesda, basically, and Skyrim. That's such a far ahead timeline that you really could just say that, and people will have forgotten you said it by the time it should have happened. Oh, darn it. I should have done that a while ago. I could have played better. Could have played better.
Right away. Do my bidding.
So, the subtitle to this article, which I'm not really even reading, is might we see VR support for Elder Scrolls 6? I think inherently yes, because there's a VR version of Skyrim. So eventually they'll do it just to trick and convince people to buy a new copy of Elder Scrolls 6. Like, that's just how it's gonna be. The temptation is way too high when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out to sell like a hugely expensive collector's edition in multiple versions and really just squeeze the consumer as much as possible. Well, I got the daily quest done and I made no progress as far as ranked play. Let's move over to the European account because there's still a lot more to do. We've got a game on Steam called Esper, E-S-P-E-R. That's usually an anime short term for somebody with ESP. It seems like this is maybe a VR game. Yeah, it is. Where you're telekinetically, I suppose, moving objects. That's really not saying too much, though, because for the most part, you're without explanation able to lift other objects all the time. 100 class cards, let's start with that, and then Rogue or Warrior, I believe, Victory. Get in here and start playing as quick as possible. This game Esper looks like it says it's an indie casual game. It looks like you're just in a room. It might have a little bit of Portal-esque things to it, influence, but mostly looks like you're just moving some very simplistic things to solve maybe some very simplistic puzzles.
My greetings.
Yeah, this doesn't really look like much of a game. It's polished, certainly, but it doesn't look like much of a game. So I'm just gonna move on from Esper. I didn't even look at the price. Maybe I should never look at the price, honestly. Next game we have on Steam is called Diner Bros. It's a 3D, it's like cook, serve, delicious type game. Maybe that's not what that game is. It's one of these Diner Dash games in 3D. It's $9.99. It has single player and local multiplayer and local co-op, shared split screen. It doesn't look bad, but it just looks like so many other copies of this idea. And it does build down into the argument that I've made several times where I just don't want to play a game where I'm doing a job. This isn't fun or entertaining. This is not what video games mean to me. Is pretending you're working somewhere. I guess as a kid I never played with any of those playsets or toys that pretended like I was working a job. It never made any kind of sense or interesting thought there. So yeah, it doesn't make any sense here. Next game I'm looking at on Steam is an extremely low effort zombie shooter asset flip. I'm not even gonna bother to name it. I'm just gonna close it. It's that bad. Like Somebody would have to make an argument in the comments about, is there an educational or informative reason to even name some of these horrible asset flip games, or like just to keep people away from them? Or what I'm effectively saying when I don't name a game because it looks so bad is that I have confidence in my audience enough to look at a game and go, oh, that looks so bad, there's no way I'd buy that. And maybe that's misplaced confidence. Maybe it isn't. Next game we have is called Soldiers Lost Forever, 1914 to 1918. It's a top-down, bad-looking game for 40% off for $1.79.
I am ready to learn.
It's not as bad as the previous game, but I also could have easily skipped this one. A lot of these type of games, had I looked through them, I would have just closed. And there is some weirdness, certainly, in the way I'm doing things, because I am effectively deciding on which I'm deciding like a day before which games to keep. So if I filter the games I'm going to talk about, I filter it a day before. So any game that comes out on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday has a higher chance of being at least mentioned, even if it's an extremely low quality game, compared to a game that comes out on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday. I guess this is one of those life's not fair, get over it type responses though. I can't really do anything different. We have a game called Ashley Clark's Secret of the Ruby. It's an adventure indie casual according to tags. It looks to me like it is a hidden object game for the most part.
Pay attention,
Maybe there
class.
actually aren't any hidden object scenes in it, and this is just one of those adventure game type games without the hidden object parts in it. One thing about these games is they still, whatever adventure game maker that is used to make them still doesn't seem like it can handle widescreen, and that's certainly a problem. And this is like the third game by this developer. Could be good, could be bad. It's 35% off for $6.50. I don't think it's worth any of that. Certainly. Deal of 3, summon a wolf. Play this.
Hunt low.
Attack there. I guess I'll keep an eye on Ashley Clark Secret of the Ruby just until some reviews come out on it, and then I'll probably close it. And I'm in a bit of a crisis, certainly, as far as how many more hidden object games do I need, do I want, do I really have time for them. Every time I've tried to play a game that feels like, oh, this will be a short game, and that'll help me get more footage and release more things, it's never been the truth. Like, there's really no such thing as short games. An hour takes an hour, always. Like, you're not gonna magically be able to play a game for an hour and break up that hour of footage into 10-minute episodes. I could break up all my episodes into 10-minute episodes. They just wouldn't feel right or have good pacing or be worth watching. If anything, if I was gonna try to do 10-minute episodes for any series, it would have to be a game where there's like an incredible amount of stuff happening in 10 minutes. Like maybe Asura's Wrath might be a good type of game for that, and even then that's probably not the right move. Yeah, short of editing down 30 minutes of footage to 10 minutes, I don't see how I ever get down to 10 minutes. I'm struggling to even make 30-minute episodes because I feel like those episodes barely have anything in them. Well, it's been an hour now for this recording, so let's break up here. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, friend me on Steam, gift me a game. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.